Hello everyone, this is Mateo with Arcade. Today, we are building a multi-agent system using OpenAI's new Agents SDK. We are also using Arcade to empower our system with tools. Arcade will handle all authentication and API calls under the hood. Our system will have 3 agents. A conversational agent that gets all of the user prompts, and 2 other agents with access to tools through Arcade. A Gmail agent capable of sending and receiving emails on our behalf, and a Slack agent connected to a workspace. These agents will be fully connected, meaning that the agents are aware of each other, and an agent may delegate responsibilities to a different agent at any time using handoffs. If you're familiar with LangGraph or other agentic frameworks that use network science terminology, handoffs are the edges that connects agents together. A cool thing about this system is its capability to call multiple tools and do multiple handoffs from one user prompt. Let me give you an example. From my terminal, I can call a script, and I can say something like, get my latest 5 emails, summarize them, and then send me, Mateo, a Slack DM including these summaries. So I'm giving multiple instructions, and we can already see that the conversation agent is delegating to the Google agent, and then the Google agent will call list emails, and finally it will hand off to the Slack agent that is going to call send DM to user, right? I don't want any agent to send stuff on my behalf without me having to approve this. This is called human in the loop, and it prevents, for example, an hallucination to being sent to customers or other people. In this case, it's just sending it to myself, so I'm going to approve this DM, and it's gonna go ahead and send that Slack DM to myself. So it says, yeah, I send you a Slack DM with the summaries of your latest emails. Here's what is included, and for now I'm just gonna exit, and I'll show you how to build this thing. From a new terminal, I create a directory for this project, and I'm gonna call it OAI for OpenAI Agents Arcade. I go in, and I'm using UV to manage Python, but you could use pip or pyenv or any Python manager that you like. So I'm gonna go UV init to create a new project, and also UV VMV to create a virtual environment. I'll activate this, and I'll install our dependency, which is UV add agents Arcade, right? So that's Arcade for the agents agentic framework. It will install essentially all that I need, not only the Arcade client, but also the OpenAI client, and likely python.env, which helps me manage environment variables. So let me go ahead and open my editor, and I'll create an environment variable.env, and I'll use 3 variables. So I'll use 2 API keys that I'll show you how to get, and just 1 like general configuration. The first is going to be Arcade API key, and the second is OpenAI API key, right? So let me show you how to get the first one. I go to my browser, I'm at the Arcade landing page, and I can click on sign up, and because I'm logged in already, I'll be redirected to the dashboard. From the dashboard, I go on the bottom left, we have the API keys button. I click on it and I just have my regular API key, and I create a new one just for this project. So let me create that, and I'm gonna call it Arcade Agent Tutorial. Let me create this. I'll copy it and I'll paste it here. Oh, sorry, that I should not be there, like this. Right. So before we carry on, I want to stress that I will revoke this key as soon as I finish recording this video. In general, you should never reveal any API keys. Don't put it on Git. Don't put it on GitHub. Just don't reveal it to anybody. And if you do, be sure to immediately revoke it. People will use it to access OpenAI on your behalf, Arcade on your behalf, and God forbid, anything that has any authorization. So from here, I can go back to my browser, and let's go to the OpenAI dashboard. I previously created this Arcade Agents project, which is projects are a good way to organize your OpenAI API account. So I'll just create a new secret, and I'm going to call it Arcade Agents SDK Tutorial. Right, it doesn't really matter the name. So I'm going to create the secret key. I'll copy it, and again, I'm going to revoke this as soon as I finish recording. I'll paste that here, and I'll put a new variable called OpenAI model. So this, I like to put this here just because it makes it easy for me to quickly change it and test my code with different models to see if it works, if they have problems with tool calling or anything. So let's see, I want to add this to Gitignore, right? So I'll say environment variables, and from here I add .env, so it's very hard that it goes automatically to GitHub. And now let's create the main entry point for this project. I'm gonna call it main.py, and I'll use the usual magic, which is if main equals main, I want to import async IO because the Agents SDK is natively async, so it's it's nice to just await stuff instead of just doing everything synchronously and blocking. So I'll just go ahead and create an async function main. For now, it does nothing, but I'm gonna call that. Okay, so now we can await the client and so on from the main function. I will write some outline of what I want to do. So first, I want to set up all tools, right? And that means getting the tools, then I want to say human in the loop. Right, so human in the loop here means that for some tools, we want to enforce that before the actual execution of the tool, the system or the chatbot asks for permissions before it actually calls the function, right? Especially for things that have side effects, it could be something simple, like even sending an email, right? So depending on the confidentiality of the information, I could say, for example, get my latest bank statements, make a summary, and then send that on an email, right? If I just say send that on an email without specifying where to whom, the LLM may very well decide to send it to anybody, right? Even if I don't really trust them, with that information, right? So that could be sensitive information. So I want to enforce human in the loop. And as a concept, this is, I think, a good practice to do. And I'll show you how to do it for the Agents SDK using Arcade. And then I want to do also auth, right? So before, in the previous tutorial, authentication would happen the first time you reach a tool. It will detect that it needs authentication, and it will start the auth flow. Then you click a link, you authorize it, and so on, right? In this case, because we are dealing with multiple agents, I prefer a different experience, which is let's authenticate all of the tools at the beginning, so that when you have a multi-step, multiple handoffs, multi-tool calling, and all of that, you don't get bothered with all of these URLs and all of that handling, right? So you will see that the code is more organized this way, and only the first time users will be bothered by saying, okay, connect to Slack, connect to Gmail, and all of that, right? But this is just an architecture that I find more elegant. So after all the tools, we want to set up all agents, and that means the Google, Slack, and the conversation agent, and then connect them together, and then initialize the conversation, and then run the loop. All right, so that's basically the structure of our program. But for this, I'll structure this in multiple files, you'll see. The first thing, I'm gonna just start by setting the loop, a basic loop like we did before, so it's gonna be a while true, right? And any potential infinite loop, I think it's a good practice to provide a way to break it immediately, right? So I'm gonna say the prompt equals input, I'm gonna say u, and then if prompt lower equals exit, then we just exit, or actually we break. Right. So this, we know just by reading these 4 lines that there is a way to break out of this infinite loop. Right. All right, so let's start importing stuff. So we'll do from Arcade API import async Arcade, which is the async client. Then from agents import agent. Agent. That's the object that actually defines the agents and to which we will provide tools and so on. And we also define the handoffs and we connect them with other agents. Then the runner, which is the entry point into the OpenAI loop, right? So it will trigger the first agent and then manage all of the transitions between different agents. And it will manage what is called the run context that has information that the agent can't update or take from, right? So if you are used to LangGraph, that is akin to the state. Right? And I also want a trace. The OpenAI SDK provides this kind of logging layer that it's an analytics that everything that happens in the runner will be recorded by the trace, and you can then inspect it and see, especially for debugging, is pretty useful, right? So I'm gonna say set tracing export API key, which is we will explicitly use the OpenAI key that we have in the environment variables to define, okay, I want to use this specific project for this trace, right? Then I want import .env, load.env. So all of the variables are now loaded. And I want to set the tracing environment. Import OS environment variables. And that's OpenAI API key. So with this, we already set the tracing. We have all of the variables, and for now, I think that's all that we need, right? So let's go ahead and start filling in that outline that we said before. So set up all tools, right? So we need a client, an Arcade client. So that's going to be client equals async arcade, and we actually don't need to pass the API key here. It will immediately load this from the environment variables. So it's, when we call .env.load.env, it's the same as exporting that into Bash or something, right? So I want two sets of tools, right? So I want Google tools, and for this I need to import from our Agents Arcade, import get arcade tools. So I say get arcade tools, I pass the client, and I say tools. And for this, I want to go to the website, actually. I'll open a new tab. And say Arcade.dev. Integrations, Gmail, and Slack. And from Gmail, I'll use send email and list emails, and only that. So I go Google, send email, and then actually that's too long. So what's email, and then Google list emails. Right. So then Slack tools. And say Slack. Let me go back to my trusty documentation. And I want send DM to user and list users. So it's going to be send DM to user and Slack lists users. Right. So actually this goes under getting tools. Human in the loop. Okay, so that's an interesting conversation. As we said, we want to enforce for some of these tools that we interrupt the flow of any handoff or any tool calling specifically, and then we put our own confirm or deny permissions to run the tool, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new terminal. I'll go to Arcade, OAI. I'm there. I can actually activate the thing just to run it later. And I can say, let's create a new directory. I'm going to call it JIT permissions, which is just-in-time permissions, because we are interrupting to just say, okay, can we do this? Yes or no. Right. So I go inside and I say touch init, so that we can import this as if it was a library, which it actually is. And say touch tools.py. Right, so I can now go here. I'll just split my screen into two, and I'll go on the right to open that file. Right. So for human in the loop, the way this will work is that we'll essentially do what is known as a code injection. Right. Get arcade tools will give us a list with function tool definitions, right? So if we go to actually OpenAI's documentation, which is here, we go to the reference and tools, right? Then we go to function tools. So these are the objects that we are getting from the Arcade, the Agents Arcade library, right? So they will essentially turn regular arcade tools into this function tool format, so that we can just pass that around to different agents from the SDK. And we have the usual suspects. We have the name of the tool, the description, the JSON schema that defines what are the parameters and so on. But the important one is the onInvoke tool property, right? So this is a callable. That means it's essentially a function that we pass around, right? And the important bit here is that it defines like a contract, right? It defines the interface that we need to provide so that the runner knows how to actually invoke this tool, or the agent knows how to actually call the tool, right? So what we have to pass is a function that invokes the tool with the given context and parameters. And the parameters are the tool run context and the arguments from the LLM as a JSON string. And Arcade already does that on our behalf, right? So what I am going to do is I'll replace this with my own function, but I don't want to lose the reference to Arcade's tool, right? So I'm gonna keep that and pass it to a function so that if we allow it, you can just go ahead and call it, right? So let's do that. For this, I'll import, let's see where I am. Okay. From Arcade.py import async arcade because I need a client. And I also, from agents, I need agents exception, right? And I'll explain why in a moment. And we also need the run context wrapper, right? So that is the thing that we need as the context, right? That we need to actually pass to the tool, right? Then, and this could be also a configuration thing that we put on the .env, but for now, and since this is a very small project, I'm just gonna create a global variable here. And I'm gonna say enforce human confirmation. Right, so this is a list of tools that require human confirmation, right? So in this case, it's gonna be anything that could backfire, right? So it's gonna be Google send email, that one, and also Slack send DM to user. So that one. With these two, so we will then import it and inject, right? So what are we injecting? I'm gonna say async definition confirm tool usage, right? And we need to comply with that contract. So it's going to be context. It's a run context wrapper. Then tool arguments. That's going to be a string, which is it comes as a JSON. But so it's a JSON that comes as a string. Then I want also the tool name string and then the callable. And no, I'm not going to type it for now. And we need to return a string or something that could be turned into a string, right? But in general, just a string, right? And we know that Arcade already handles this, so we can just return whatever the callable returns, we can just return, right? So the idea here, let me just add a little bit of a doc string. So it's going to be ask the user to confirm a tool call or raise an exception, right? So we know now that, so I just wrote essentially what I plan to do, which is the happy path is going to be, okay, the user just says, go ahead, call the tool. So we call the tool and return, or we raise an exception, right? That's why I imported agents exception over here, because we are going to create a new exception class or a new exception type that we will handle then in the loop, right? So let's go ahead and first write this function. So the arguments are going to be the context is the OpenAI Agents SDK run context. Then tool args is going to be parameters for the function, JSON as a string. Then tool name is the name of the tool that we want to call. And then callable is going to be the function that we should call if approved. Then returns a string, the output of the tool, or we fail, right? So I'm gonna say print just because we're building a terminal app, and it's gonna be new line. The agent requires permission, and I'm gonna say I'm about to call tool name with these arguments. And I want to print the arguments, but the arguments in this case come from a string, and if you've ever seen a very long JSON string, they are very hard to read. So I'm going to import JSON and import pprint. Pprint is a Python built-in module that essentially makes it easy to just present stuff on the terminal. So I'm going to say these are the arguments that we want to use, and it's going to be JSON load string tool arguments, right? So we present, okay, we're saying the assistant or the agent requires permission, and it says I'm about to call this tool with these arguments, and we want to say this is going to be from import print, right? So we're going to say input, I'm going to say confirmation, input, do you allow it? Yes or no. Let's see. And then, well, because this is an input and the user can put anything they want, we just need to be a bit careful and say while confirmation lower is not in, and the allowed values are going to be y and n. Then we want to get that confirmation again, and we need to clarify to the user, do you want to know it? You must say use y or n. Right, so it's not in, so it just should be not in. So okay, if we may get stuck there forever, or we just got a yes or no. So if we say if confirmation is yes, we actually return await callable context tool args, right? Otherwise, we need to raise an exception, right? So what's the exception going to look like? So we are going to create a new one. It's going to be class user denied to call, and we are extending agents exception. We do this not to interfere with the Agents SDK actual error handling. They already have their own exceptions, but this is kind of the base one that we indicate that it comes from the agent, so we can actually interrupt and handle that in the loop. So I'm going to say this raised when the user denies a tool call. Then I'm going to say tool name is a string, def init self tool name self tool name equals tool name. We raise that. So in this case, if it's not yes, we just raise, and that's going to be user denied tool call, and it's going to be the tool name. All right, so with this, we can now inject this function into the tools that we want, but we need to import that into our project. So let's do that. It's going to be from permission tools, import, and we want everything basically. But I'm going to do enforce human confirmation, user denied tool call, and confirm tool usage. So with these three, we can now actually do the tool injection, right? So for human in the loop, I'm going to say for tool in Google Tools and Slack tools. So that's the concatenation of these two lists. I'm going to say if tool name in enforce human confirmation, we're going to say tool on tool, what is it called? On invoke tool. Invoke tool on invoke tool, we want to replace this with a partial. And a partial it comes from another built-in Python package, which is from functools, right? Import partial. So what this essentially does is it allows us to bind some parameters to a function and leave their other parameters free for example, the agent to fill in, right? So the context will come from the agent, the tool arguments will come from the agent, but the tool name and the callable, we are going to set into this function. So it's essentially a pointer to a specific instance to a function, like a little bit like a helper to make a closure, right? So I'm gonna say partial, and we confirm tool usage, and we're gonna say tool name is gonna be tool.name, and then what else? Callable. Callable is gonna be tool on invoke tool. Right, so I just want to run this and see, if we have everything working, right? So let me just, what is going on here? So enforcing information, issue denied tool call. Okay, we are not handling that yet. So okay, let's just give it a try, see what's going on. Right, so Python main. Whoa, okay. Python main. What do I say? Coroutine and coroutine. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So this is actually a coroutine, so we need to await this, right? So we await here, because these are async functions. Forget about that. We should just get, yay, we get X. Okay, so we have all the tools, and they have the injection now. And we want auth, right? So before, as I said, right? So we want to actually, well, we can actually do, human in the loop here, and then auth also inside the tool, right? So we want a function that we pass a tool and it just runs the auth if it needs it, right? So the way we're going to do that is we are using the Arcade client, and we just essentially say, authenticate this tool, please. And it will handle everything on our behalf. We just need to print the URL, and that's it, all right? So let me add a new function to our library. And here at the bottom, I'm gonna say, and just let me scroll this up a little bit. I'm gonna say async auth tool. I'm gonna say client. That's async arcade, and tool name is going to be a string. So I'm going to say result is the client, tools authorize. I'm going to say tool name is tool name, and I also need the user ID actually. User ID equals string. So user ID. User ID. So with this, we have the result now, and we send this request to the API. It will start the authorization flow, and we actually get something in return, right? So if result status is different from completed, we print. Actually, we need to await this. We print, please click this link to authorize tool name. I'm gonna say result. Actually, I want new line, result.url. There we go. So that's too long. So maybe no, yeah. Just click this link. No, please. Click this link to authorize the tool, and that's the URL. And then a cool trick that we can use now that we couldn't before because this was in the middle of our loop is say await client wait auth wait for completion, right? So we just pass this result, and it will poll this on our behalf until the authorization flow is wrapped, essentially, right? So we actually just need to call this function, and it will, if it has nothing to do, it will just check that the tool is authorized, and then if it isn't, it will make us click the link and then wait for completion. And if it's already authorized, it will just flow through. So we don't have to actually do anything. It's absolutely transparent for the user. That's pretty cool. So pretty magical function there. So what we can just say here is say, import that. So I'm gonna say, comma, auth tool. I'll be calling that function and say auth tool client tool name. And that's it for now. So now we want to set up all of the agents, right? I can finish writing this and then do the auth, or I can just show you how it works. So why don't we test this, right? Let's test that. Let's go to the next terminal, Python main. What do you say? Required, oh, right. That's the point. I didn't pass the user ID, right? So I guess set up, initial, context, right? So I'll explain how we're using the context later on, but this is essentially the initial version of the run context that we're passing around from agent to agent, right? And actually, the Arcade tools will need that user ID in general, which is the identifier of our user for Arcade. It's the unique identifier. That's how Arcade knows, when this guy calls authenticate this tool or whatever, whether they are authorized or not, right? It could be a number, it could be an email. I normally like to use my email for this because it's clear, but it could be whatever you want, and you can handle that on your own database, or just generate a random ID or whatever, right? So I'm gonna say context equals dictionary, and for now we're just gonna have user ID, and I'm gonna put my own email, Mateo@arcade.dev. And I'm gonna pass here the user ID is gonna be context user ID. Right, so let's try that again. Enable trace malloc to use allocation. Auth tool was never awaited. Oh my god. Yeah. Async is hard, so let's await this. Await. We just exit that. Yes, we just got a link. So click it, authorize it, allow it, and we go back. Actually already generated the next one for Slack, which is pretty cool. We didn't need to actually do anything. Slack, authorize this, and that's it. And go back. We're authorized, right? And of course, this doesn't do anything, and I can just exit. But the next time I call this, it should just be authorized, right? So I should just, it's checking. That's it. That's it. We have permission to use the tools. That's awesome. For me, this auth that just works is one of the best things about Arcade. So exit. All right. So we now have all the tools set up correctly, and we just need to create our agents, right? We need 3 agents. So the first one is going to be the Google agent. Google agent equals agent, and I will fill in all of the information. It's going to be name, Google agent, instructions, which is similar to a system prompt. It's going to be you are a helpful assistant. with access to Google tools that enable you to manage contacts and inbox and in inbox. All right, so I think that's pretty much what we need. And then we can say handoff description. And this is essentially a description that is not for the agent itself, but for other agents that will decide whether to delegate responsibility to this agent, right? So this is basically an agent with access to Google tools. That's it. That's everything any other agent needs to know to decide whether it's gonna delegate its job to this one. So if the context of the conversation is, use Google for something, this agent should do the job. Then we just say model equals quest environ OpenAI model. Then tools is Google tools. That's it for now. Let me just duplicate this to create the Slack agent. This is going to be Slack agent. You're a helpful assistant with access to Slack tools. You're enabled to manage channels, a workspace, such as sending messages, DMs, and reading and searching for users. Maybe this is not the best system prompts, but we are just giving it 2 tools in this tutorial. If you are giving it more tools, you may need to expand a little bit more in the instructions, make it so that if you're in this situation, call this, if you're in that other situation, call that, that kind of thing, right? And handoff description is an agent with access to Slack tools. And then here we pass Slack tools. Slack tools. And then I want the third agent. It's going to be conversation agent. That's the conversation agent. So this is your helpful assistant with access. You're a helpful assistant that can help with everyday tasks. You should, if the request or if the user requests a service that requires tools, or in case a tool, please hand off. No, you must hand off to the appropriate agent. I think that's enough, right? This is going to be a general purpose agent with no tool access. So no tools for this guy, but here we start setting the actual connections between the agents. So this is going to be handoffs. There's a list, and the first one is going to be our Google agent, then the Slack agent, and we actually want to make this fully connected. So we want to also set this for the Google agent and the Slack agent, but since we cannot define this before the other agents, let's define it here. So we're going to say Google agent handoff extend. I'm going to pass this list, and it's going to be conversation agent and Slack agent, and I'm going to do the same for the Slack agent. oops, conversation agent and Google agent. And that's it for the agents. So we just need to now initialize the conversation and actually handle the run in the loop, right? So initializing the conversation is very easy. So we just need the history. So that's going to be history of messages. It's an empty list. I normally like to type this. It's not required, but I think it's nice to type it. Let's do that. So from this, I can import one of the types, which is the response input item, which is essentially that small dictionary that determines the role and the content of the messages in the flow of messages or the flow of the chat completion, right? So I'm gonna say this is a list of the response input item. That's it. And then okay, that's it. So if the user types anything other than X8, we add that to the history. So we say history, append, we create this dictionary. Oops. We need a role, and that's going to be our user, and the content is going to be the prompt. Then we are saying try, right? Because we need a try in case just the runner fails. And it may fail just because we did something wrong with the code or anything, or because the user denied a tool call, right? So we're gonna say try to run all the agents except user denied tool call, right? Actually, no, that's it. We are accepting, so as E, right? So that's exception. Sorry. It's gonna complain until the end of the universe, but okay. So here, basically, we are in the not happy path, right? So if the user denied the tool call, we actually need to, add that to history, right? So we need to record that so that the next iteration of this loop, the agent actually knows or remembers that this tool call was attempted and the permission was not given. So it doesn't just infinitely tries to call the same tool and potentially, annoying the user or something, right? So we can say history, extend, and I'm gonna put 3 messages here, right? So we are pretending that this is what happens. And I don't want to actually put everything in, maybe I should, but I just think it's simpler just to add smaller things. So I'm gonna do role assistant, and then the content is going to be please confirm the call to E toolname, right? So that's what the agent says, and then the user is going to say, whoa, invalid syntax, I don't know what, oh yeah, here. The user is going to say, I changed my mind, please don't do it. And then the agent, because it's a good agent, is going to say assistant, actually I want that, it's going to be sure, I cancelled call to E toolname. Then something to keep the conversation going, like a period here. What else can I do for you today? Very helpful. So, okay. All right. So with this, the agent already knows, well, the history already has that a tool call was attempted, the user didn't approve it, and the assistant just say, okay, sure, whatever, I didn't call it. What else can I do for you today? But we didn't print that to the user yet. So we need to print that. And we say history, the last element of the history, we just print the content, right? And now the last, but pretty much most important part, we need to actually call the Agents SDK and pass the prompt and keep everything rolling, right? So we're gonna say result equals await runner run. So what are we running? We say starting agent is the conversation agent, then input is the history and everything that happens here. So every path in this while should add a message at this to the history. And then we are saying the context is the context, right? So this context is what gets passed around from agent to agent. The actual LLM cannot see the context. So, you cannot put like system instructions or anything for the agents there. But, the tools can access that. And like Arcade, for example, needs the user ID and so on. So with this, we have the result, and we say history result to input list, right? So this is actually okay to just replace the history because the result will have, some enriched information about the handoffs and so on. So, things that we don't manage will be just included in the history on our behalf, which is pretty useful. And then we just print that to the user. We say print result final output, which is what the agent actually wants, quote unquote, wants to reply, right? So let's test this now. So let's go to tutorial, Python main. It's already authenticated, and I can say, get my latest 5 emails and summarize them. Then send me, Mateo, a DM on Slack, including the summaries. So it apparently just sent the message, so I'm not very happy about that because the human in the loop is clearly not working as I intended. So I'm gonna just go ahead and exit this. And well, I guess it's a good time to show you how to debug this kind of thing, right? What we want is some sort of tracing, right? And likely there are some examples on OpenAI's GitHub account. So I can go here and I go to examples and then basic lifecycle example, I think. Yes, this one. So yeah, we want all of these, right? So basically we have these custom agent hooks, right? So that it will say like on start, on end, on handoff, on tool start, and on tool end. What's going on, right? So we copy this and let me just create a new file just to keep everything organized. And I'm gonna say custom hooks.py. Paste that. I'm gonna say from agents import agent hooks and run context wrapper agent. I think we are fine. Oh no, we actually need tool. What else? From typing import any. Right. So you're gonna say this agent. I'm just gonna say started, ended with output. I don't want the output. Just end it. Because the output is normally like JSON and it's not well formatted. Handoff to agent whatever. Yes. Agent 2 with result. Agent ended with result. And the tool name with results. Yeah, this is response from the results. I actually don't want that as well. So just end the tool, whatever. That's it. All right, so this is the custom agent hook, and actually this is gonna be this uppercase. So we need to import that. We'll say from custom import custom agent hooks, and then I want to add that. I think I need to add them there. Let's check that. Hooks, custom agent hooks, display name. Yeah. So I'm gonna say hooks, custom agent hooks, display name, Google agent. I'm gonna pass that to everyone. This is gonna be the Slack agent and conversation agent. We need a comma over here. Then let's see if tool name in enforce human confirmation. Just for my sanity, let's do print tool name, right? Because it could be that there is some transformation of the name happening, and that's why we are not doing that actually. So let's do that. Cannot import any from typing. All right. But to know, we need to save this file and then try again. Oh yeah, so I know what happened. In our list, we are using Google Dots and email dot whatever. So, but this gets transformed into underscore, which is also a valid separator. So the easiest way to fix this is going to be go to git permission tools, and we can just replace this with underscore. Also here, oops, underscore. So now we should be all good, and we should also have some tracing, right? Let me just get rid of that print statement. Oh, I need to actually save that, otherwise it's not gonna work. Let's go. Right, so list my latest 5 emails, then summarize them, then send me, Mateo, a DM on Slack with the summaries. Yeah, so it says agent conversation started, it prints the handed off to list email Slack agents, and now we should get the confirmation, yes. So it says, yeah, do you want me to send this? I pretty much just want to say yes. Go ahead. And he sent the DM to me. That's pretty cool. So that's I did. It just replied with that. I think we can just try again, like just to see if the not happy path is working. We can say send me Mateo. And I specify Mateo here just because I need the agent to know where to send it, so I need to approve it. Otherwise, I mean, while testing this, I sent some DMs to other members of the team that had like random haikus, right? So send me Mateo a haiku, a DM on Slack with a haiku about multi-agent systems. There you go. So in conversation, it handed off to Slack, and it said, yeah, do you want to send this? Okay, so no, I don't, just because I can say yes. So everything works as expected. I hope you like this tutorial. There are other tutorials in our channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. And I want to hear from you. What are you planning to build with agents? What are your favorite agentic frameworks? What else can Arcade do for you? Let me know in the comments, and keep building.